So I was having a discussion with a pastor yesterday, and he's in Europe, in the UK, and he was saying that Christianity is losing more people. The younger generation are no longer interested in the religion. They're no longer going to church. And we both agreed in the discussion that this is probably happening to every major religion. But if you really want to know why, then we can have a discussion, all right? Click this button to share this video. Click this plus sign to follow me, all right? And click this heart icon to like. And you can let me know your own opinion in the comments. So this pastor was saying that churches in Europe, people no longer attend, that is now empty. Okay, in fact, some of the church buildings are being leased out for event centers. People are buying it for their mansion, church. People will buy church and convert it to mansion, or hostel. They will demarcate it and convert it to hostel. Some churches will lease to other religions. They don't mind because it's now empty. People know they attend again. So I was asking him why. He said it's the devil. I said no, don't blame the devil for what man has caused. Then he asked me why. So I told him what I'm about to tell you. I told him that the way the religion was preached in the past, when people were suffering, is not the way it should be preached now, because we have entered a new age. We are in a new civilization. There is now new technology. So the church and the core message is still the same, right? But the church and the preachers need to adapt to this. In fact, sometimes the wordings in the Bible itself need to change to adapt. Many of you don't know, but the Bible has been modified thousands of times. You understand? Each new age in the past will modify the Bible. Just a little word they will change to suit the modern narrative at their time. That's why there are different versions, in case you don't know. You understand? Each version will get to a sentence and tweak it just a little. You would think it doesn't mean anything until you want to interpret it. You will now see that the interpretation is way different from the one that they tweaked from. There is no original copies, so people will always adapt. But the core message is the same. If you bring all Bible versions, you see the core message is the same, all right? So now the way it is preached in modern times need to adapt too to modern technology. Dalai Lama, right, was saying, this is the head of, is it the Buddhist religion, all right? Like their Pope. He was saying that tomorrow, if science discovers something that is different or contradicts what is in their Bible, their own Buddhist book, that they will modify their Buddhist book to match what science is saying, not trying to argue with science. The guy is still alive, but he has a certain intelligence. So what am I saying? For instance, if you come and preach to someone in the olden days, people were suffering. Even in time of Jesus, the Jews were suffering. They were under captivity. Do you understand? Under Roman occupation, and these Romans were taxing them heavily. The Romans were taxing them to raise funds to fund other wars, because Romans were trying to conquer the Indians, you know, and the Persians. They had wars with them. So they needed money to fight these wars. You know, when you're fighting, you have to pay salary of soldiers. Otherwise, soldiers will not fight. So they were taxing the Jews and all these other people. And these people were asking Jesus. And then the church, which is the synagogues there, were also taxing the same people. So if you make money in a month, the church will collect tithe. That's where tithe started. 10% of what you have made, church has collected it, plus offerings. And then the government will collect tax again, heavy tax. So the people are left suffering. So they were asking Jesus, if you've read the Bible, they were asking Jesus, should we not pay tax? Jesus was like, nah, you better pay to Caesar. Caesar is the Roman emperor. Pay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and pay to God what belongs to God. In that case, Jesus did not provide any solution to them. Basically, what Jesus was trying to tell them was that if you don't pay Caesar, he will come and crush you people. Allah know it your side. So let's put it in modern context. Who are you going to meet in the streets and tell the person that that there are many mansions? Because Jesus was telling them, don't worry, in my Father's house there are many mansions. Okay, basically whatever suffering you guys are suffering here, you know, don't worry. I'm going to my Father's place, and then I will create room for you in the mansion. Then I'll come and take you. So these people that are suffering, the solution then was that, don't worry, there's a mansion in heaven. Okay, when you die, you get to heaven, and then everything will be all right. It made sense to them. It made common sense. All right, I'm not saying whether it is existing, heaven exists or not. No, I'm saying the message that was preached to them made sense because they were suffering. Maybe there's a better place. Fine. In this modern era, you can't tell somebody there is mansion in heaven, you're going to create mansion. Is it mad? A beggar in this corner of the street. Imagine New York City, a beggar in the corner of the street. You are telling him that there is mansion when he dies, but he can see the mansion in the same street. He can see the skyscrapers. Some buildings you can't even see their top because they are touching the clouds. He can see it live. And you're telling him that he should die before he will get into which mansion again? That message cannot work for that beggar. Even though he's poor, the civilization has changed. Technology has changed. He knows that that message cannot work. So if you're preaching that message, you'll be wondering why people are not converting. You are preaching rubbish. What the beggar needs is money. Or at least tell him how to make money so he can get into the mansion. Do you understand? The guy will be on the street seeing Lamborghini passing, rich people cruising with their girlfriends and this, that, and you're telling him mansion in heaven. Which heaven? Many pastors have not caught up to that fact that things have changed. That's why I agree with Pastor Abel Damina on everything he preaches. People don't understand the angle he's coming from. He's coming from the angle that people in this modern age are now thinking. You understand? Instead of faith-based belief, it's now changing to a thought-based belief. You have to preach the message in such a way that it makes sense to even an atheist. An atheist will not see a hole to poke in it. Just like the story of the Tower of Babel. In the olden days, it made sense. Tower of Babel, there were people in the tower, and they were building a skyscraper to touch the skies. Halfway, God caused them to speak different languages, and the whole thing collapsed. It made sense because for thousands of years, humans could not build a building that would touch the skies. For thousands of years. So you are telling them, okay, it's because their building wanted to touch the skies. Now we have hundreds of buildings that are touching the skies. Hundreds. That story no longer makes sense like that. The story is outdated. You cannot preach it like that. Do you understand? You can no longer preach it the way it was preached to people 100, 200 years ago when there was no tower. We now have towers that are... Have you ever gone to Burj Khalifa? You can see the clouds will be below you. If you go to some of the topmost buildings, if you look through the window, the clouds is no longer up, it's now down. So if you are preaching about the Tower of Babel story, you need to put into account the fact that we now have buildings that are touching the skies and God has not destroyed it to come down. Do you understand? You have to preach it taking into account that this may not be a real tower, and the division of language that God caused may not be a real language or real people. You highlight what is the moral of the story. That is the most important. Not actually what happened or whether it really happened. I don't know if you're getting me. Another final story is the story of Adam and Eve. So Eve ate the fruit. You are preaching the way it is written, that a serpent came into the garden and spoke to Eve and convinced Eve to eat the fruit. Bro, do serpents talk? No. Now imagine that you're preaching this in church. Somebody finishes listening to you, and you know that the smartphones listen to conversations around. I don't know if you know that. If your phone is in your pocket and you're discussing with somebody, your phone is listening and picking the keywords and registering it. When you now open your social media, you'll start seeing posts and videos that have to do with those keywords. So those messages in church about Adam and Eve you just finished preaching, people will open their social media on their way back from church and they will see people preaching on the topic. Before you know it, they will see an atheist or a critical thinker analyzing that story and poking holes in it. First of all, do snakes talk? Do snakes have vocal cavities since they born you? Have you ever seen a snake talking? No. So why are you now telling us that a snake is talking? Did you see it? No, you didn't see it. Did anybody you know see it? No. So why are you now telling us that a snake is talking? Something is wrong somewhere. Do you understand? Okay, is it a real snake? Some people will say, no, it's not a real snake. This is the devil manifesting as a snake. Okay, if you say it's the devil manifesting as a snake, right? Why did God then cause real snakes, telling them they will crawl on their bellies? Why didn't God cause the devil? So anyhow you take it, you run into problem. If you say it's the devil manifesting as a snake, you run into problem. If you say it's a real snake, you run into problem. So when you are preaching this story, you have to preach it taking into account some of these questions that